is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
For today's adventure, we find ourselves on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, California. What you're looking at right now is the historic Hollywood Palladium concert venue. So many people have played here. Today, we're talking about David Bowie. When Jessica and I first moved here, we drove all over Hollywood and LA to get the lay of the land, so to speak. And obviously right now the marquee says "All Hail the Queen," hashtag Genius Aretha Franklin. That's what the AF stands for. But when we were driving by here for the very first time, I wish I would have gotten a picture because it said David Bowie played here. Of course, David Bowie wasn't the only famous act to perform here. This theater has been around for quite some time. Frank Sinatra performed here. Richard Pryor performed here. John F. Kennedy spoke here for his Democratic speech leading up to his presidency. And you remember the movie Blues Brothers? The very end scene when they're performing and the police are in the auditorium waiting to arrest them? That all happened here. The interior scenes, that performance with Cab Calloway all happened on the stage inside the Hollywood Palladium. I really like to document the different art that's on the buildings or in the alleyways here in Hollywood because you just never know when they're going to go away. Everything changes so much. A couple of weeks ago we came across a mural of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. Sadly, that's been covered up. It was probably one of the most beautiful ones we've seen on the street. So you just never know. Just capturing it all for prosperity. It's beautiful though, right? I mean, there are some bad pieces out there on the street. But these are professionally done here at the Palladium. Artwork is always being erased here in Hollywood. It's being covered over and something new is painted. So it's nice to just document it. Speaking of art around town, you see that building across the street, the different colors of the rainbow and the colorful characters from the 60s painted on it? Well, when Tarantino was filming Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, his crew turned pretty much, well, I wouldn't say all of it, but the majority of the Sunset Strip back to the way it was in the heyday. And that building was one of them, Aquarius. And they decided to keep it. David Bowie was no stranger to Los Angeles. He's been here multiple times, he performed here, but not many people know that he actually lived here for a little bit, close to a year, 10 months, I do believe. In interviews, he has said that living here in Los Angeles was a complete nightmare, the worst moment of his life. But he did put out one of his most amazing albums, some would say, Station to Station. David Bowie was living here in Los Angeles because he was starring in a movie called The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Nothing you have seen or heard about David Bowie will prepare you for the impact of his first dramatic performance in The Man Who Fell to Earth. This is another dimension of David Bowie, one of the few true originals of our time.
Amazing film, weird film. I mean, it's David Bowie. He wanted to be a movie star. He wanted to be a director. And if I remember correctly, there's an interview out there where he talks about wanting to just kind of give up music and performing in concerts, that he's done everything that he could do. The interesting thing about David Bowie, and I'm sure if you're a fan, you're going to agree with me, he was all kinds of characters. He was the Goblin King. He was, you name it, he was the king at creating personas. But he was never, how do I say this? He never put on a costume. Every time he created a character or every time he stepped in the shoes of a different character, he became that character. And that's what made David Bowie out of this world, literally. I mean, crazy guy, talented, I love him, you love him, but out of this world. They've had the Chinese theater closed down and barricaded off this entire time. since the pandemic started. But everything is slowly opening back up. Not too long before this place does. One of my Hollywood dreams is to spend the night inside the Roosevelt Hotel here. Mainly because inside this hotel, whether you believe in ghosts or not, they have something that many people know or say is a mirror that's haunted by Marilyn Monroe. I want to see it. I want to look into it. Not too terribly far from what I like to call Hollywood proper, you know, the Grimm's Chinese Theater and all the different museums. Over here by the new, I think it's called the Galaxy Target, or the Target Galaxy, something like that. But this is where you will find the Starman's star, David Bowie, on the Walk of Fame. A lot has changed since Bowie got his star here in 1997. The LA Fitness, this whole complex, is all brand spanking new. And I point this out because behind him in photos from that day, right where that LA Fitness sign is, you can see stairs going down. Those are no longer here. Instead, they moved the stairs over here. Look at this thing. It's a beautiful building. Right now I'm in Beverly Hills, standing on Doheny Drive. It's a very busy street. But right across the street, I'm going to show you guys in just a moment, is a house that I'm going to call David Bowie's Nightmare House. And I got a story for you that's just going to make you scratch your head and go, okay, here we go. A lot has definitely changed here in Beverly Hills since David Bowie was living here. But this house right here, 637 North Doheny Drive, is where David Bowie lived for a very short time. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this was his nightmare house. I got a story to tell you, but before we do that, just looking at the house, you can't really see it, but over here, there are two windows, and right here behind the gate, let's go ahead and get a closer look at it. The front door, as you can tell, it says 637 right there. But the front door, this tall tower, I guess you would say, that can be seen in pretty much every photo that you can find online of David Bowie living here, just looking at the house. This is it. Let me go ahead and back up. Hidden nightmarish music history. In interviews, Bowie said living here in Los Angeles was the darkest point of his life. While here, not only did he make the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, but he also recorded the album Station to Station. But living inside this house, he was doing so much cocaine and he was sleeping very little. I'm talking weeks without sleep. Living in this house like a vampire, living only on peppers and milk, saving, this is mind-blowing, saving his semen and his nail clippings because he was afraid that witches, black magic witches, were going to come and cast a spell and make another David Bowie clone of him, so to speak. My favorite thing about this story, and it had to have really sucked for David Bowie, is there's a pool out back. And he famously performed an exorcism on the pool. Like, what kind of drugs? Now imagine this. You're on so much cocaine and you haven't slept for days, maybe even weeks. You're sitting out back, the wind is howling, and you start seeing things. Now supposedly, the wind was howling and the pool started bubbling, and David Bowie was convinced that the devil was in his swimming pool, that it was possessed by the devil, and he had to have it exorcised, and he took it upon himself to do such a thing. I wish that there was video of this. I really do. It doesn't look like anybody's home, and to be honest, I don't think we're going to be able to get back there to see this swimming pool. But it would have been right back here behind this portion of the house. David Bowie's time here was very short in the grand scheme of his career, but at the same time it was very influential. We got the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, the album Station to Station, and dare I say, another one of many legendary rock stories in the history of music. I mean, I read about the stuff and I laugh, I find it amusing, but at the time, obviously for him, it sucked. I'm gonna try to be a little sleuthy and walk around the corner to see if there's an alleyway. Maybe I can see the pool from there or something. But just gotta be careful. Here in Beverly Hills, they have a lot of like security walking around, and I don't want them to think that I'm trying to break into some place. Just some crazy fan of Bowie himself. So we shall see. Well, they do have an alleyway. Again, no trespassing. Just want to see if we can see the pool. All right. So walking down here, over here on the left-hand side is where the house would be. So this building right here says Beware of Dogs 639 Doheny. So right here this is 637. This is where David Bowie would have parked his car way back in the day. Can't see anything past this gate right there, but I can hear like the pumps, the engines, or the motors of the pumps for the swimming pool, whatever you call it. I can hear it. Can't see it. It's all right. We tried. Poking its head over the fence like two possessed eyes looking back at us is what appears to be a guest house or possibly even a pool house. But it looks like this is as close as we're going to get to the David Bowie's possessed pool in his nightmarish house. Crazy though. With that being said, thank you for joining us on another adventure, and remember, happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. A bad luck's always coming my way.